Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome at the launch of TUCCR, Twente University Centre for Cybersecurity Research, public-private partnerships. My name is Chris van 't Hof. I'm happy to be your host for the next hour, in which we'll be having a signing ceremony of the 10 founding partners. We'll be having a keynote by no one less than Mikko Hipponen. I'll be interviewing some of the founding partners, and of course you can also join us through the chat. I already saw some people mentioning, hi, very gezellig. Hi Oscar, great you're here. Somebody asked, is this safe and secure? Yes, of course, we do the 1.5 meter, everything is sterilized and stuff. So keep using the chat and I will abbreviate them shortly in between the parts of this day. We kick off with two professors of the Twente University. You probably all know Willem Jonker and Eiko Pras, who have been very instrumental in launching TUCCR. Gentlemen, welcome. Willem Jonker, let us start with you. For the audience at home, could you briefly elaborate on what TUCCR is? What is your vision of the future and what will be the focus of the Research Institute?
Thanks very much, Chris. I'm of course delighted that we have the opening here today. TUCCR is focusing on societal impact in cybersecurity, which is a hot topic. I don't have to repeat that here. And we are focusing on two key elements in that. That's the whole data protection and that's the whole infrastructure, the network protection. So that's really the focus of our work. What's very important is we are a public-private partnership. This is societal organizations, industry, research, working together to address topics that are relevant and that have an impact in society and business. It's also about excellence. We build on excellent research. We have excellent people in our founding partner network. And of course, we go for excellent, impactful results. And finally, what's important is talent and skills. We need more talented people. We want to attract talented students to the Netherlands to serve the Dutch society when it comes to these challenges. And it's also about skills. We see that there is a need to upskill a lot of people in our businesses, in our public organizations, because cybersecurity is exploding as a topic. It's really a 600% increase of cybersecurity incidents during this pandemic. So it's highly timely, it's highly relevant, and I'm extremely happy that with our partners, we are able to launch TUCCR today.
Yeah. TUCCR, I love the name, but it also means Twente. What is so special about this region?
Well, what's special about the Twente University is a couple of elements that I want to mention. So Twente is a university that characterizes itself through high-tech human touch. And that's also very relevant in cybersecurity. Of course, cybersecurity is about encryption, it's about protocols, it's about mathematics, but it's also about the human factor. Many mistakes are human factor related. People that make mistakes with the systems. It's also about ethics. Privacy, how to handle your data, what is ethical, very important. And we play a role here. We've seen in the Netherlands, for example, the contact tracing. TUCCR has played a role there, especially on this ethics side. And what's very important of Twente University, it's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is in the heart of the university. It's the 3 Ps. It's the paper, the patent, and the product. We want to create business, we want to launch startups, and we are known for that. And that is also what you see represented in TUCCR. A real entrepreneurial drive. Make it happen.
Okay, thank you very much, Willem Jonker. Eiko Pras, also professor here at Twente University, and also one of the people who was very instrumental in building this new research center. Could you elaborate briefly on what kind of research we can expect from TUCCR?
Yeah. Very nice that I'm here, that we have this opening here. I think that TUCCR has to address what is currently amongst the biggest problems that we have in Europe, in the Netherlands, and also here. And that's digital sovereignty. And if you look at digital sovereignty, you can ask yourself, what is it? But if you look, for example, at Thierry Breton, the Commissioner for the Internal Market, he has said that digital sovereignty means that we have control over our compute infrastructure, we have control over our data, and we have control over our communication means. And what we will do in Twente is we will focus on two of these aspects, that is data security and that is network security. But we will do that within the context of the human touch part of the university.
Yeah, because in the description it says it's going to be very multidisciplinary. Just to mention a few: computer science, behavioral and social sciences, quantum physics, electrical engineering, and mathematics. Could you perhaps give an example of how to proceed on multidisciplinary research in cybersecurity?
Interesting. If you look nowadays how in the news, you see that ransomware is nearly all around. And you see that organizations are being hacked. And of course, if you want to fight ransomware, which is a major problem nowadays, you have to take technical measures. So you have to do right backup structures, you have to do two-factor authentication, a lot of technical stuff. That's clear. But what you should also do is to think about how can we stop this criminal activity. And so the first question you should ask yourself is, should I pay? And to answer that question, you need to have an economic assessment of the damage if a cyber attack is happening to you. So one of the things that we do in Twente is we look at economics of attacks. The other thing where you have to look at, is it ethical to pay criminal organizations? And if it's not ethical, then probably you shouldn't do that. But if you shouldn't do that, then probably we need legislation as well. Not just Dutch, but probably even European legislation that tells us that you should have your infrastructure 100% okay. If you're still being hacked and you've done everything well, then legislation says that the state, Europe, will pay. But if you don't have it, then probably you are doing something which is really wrong, and you can be sentenced for that. So that's an example, ransomware, where the solution is not just technical, but you need the entire spectrum of things that we will do in TUCCR.
Yeah, very good example indeed, because we had one university who paid. They just did the economics, said, okay, we're going to pay several hundred to save several million. We got a large research organization which already said, we're not going to pay, guys. So they're now spilling some data on the internet. But yeah, we should work together fighting ransomware. And TUCCR might be one of the research centers to proceed on that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Eike Pras. Gentlemen, you'll be returning later on in the end when we do the celebration with champagne, confetti, and contracts, of course, we're going to sign with the partners. You're getting loose on the chat, I see. Many people say, well, everybody, great to be here. TUCCR, great initiative. You can also have discussions there. Ronald van Rijswijk will also moderate the discussion, answer the more difficult questions I can't. And please also use the chat for our keynote speaker. As we are very proud to announce, we have Mikko Hyppönen, researcher at TUCCR for 30 years already. You might have already seen some of his keynotes, as his TEDx has been viewed for over 1 million times. He's also a lecturer at Oxford, Stanford, and Cambridge. I can see you're presenting from home. You don't have slides. It's just a personal chat of 15 minutes with Mikko Hyppönen, and afterwards, perhaps we have some ample time for questions. Mikko, please take it away.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. And it's really great to be part of the Twente launch, because we need more initiatives like this, and we need more initiatives like this in Europe, because Europe is where the web was invented. Europe was where Linux was invented. And now the web has taken over the world, and Linux has taken over the world, as it now clearly is the most common operating system in the world. And as you might have heard, 3 weeks ago, Linux also made its way to Mars. So Europe has been the innovation hotbed for many of the technological innovations which have created this digital revolution that we're living through. But somehow, and for some reasons, most of the services and platforms we use are not European. Open up your browser and scroll through the history list of the websites you visited over the last 24 hours. And in addition of the local news sites or maybe local weather, pretty much everything else is coming from outside of Europe. And that's a bit sad. The same thing applies to many of the apps we use and so on. And there's no reason for that, because Europe is filled with bright minds and great entrepreneurship and research units like Twente. So I'm looking forward to a future for Europe where we are sovereign and can create our own technologies and have companies which can compete on every level with the biggest technology companies in the world. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm confident we can do it. And I'm confident that technology changes the world, and that it changes the world for the better. The biggest problems we have, I'm confident that we will be tackling them with technological innovation. Even the biggest problems like global warming. Sure, it is a huge problem. I think the solution to that will be technological innovation. We will find out ways not just to reduce our footprint, but to actually remove CO2 from the atmosphere. Technological innovation is what's brought us so far. But the thing about technological innovation and technological revolutions is that when we innovate something really useful, then we quite quickly become reliant on that technology. Soon enough, we and our societies will not function with that technology. And I'll give you an example. Electricity or the electric grid. Now, I'm a Finn. I live in Finland. I'm right now in Helsinki. Helsinki, the city of Helsinki, got its first electric grid pretty much exactly 150 years ago. That's when we started replacing the gas lights around our streets with electric light. And of course, the Netherlands knows quite a bit about electric light, being the birthplace of Philips and all that. But that revolution, the revolution of electric grid, has now become mandatory. Like we can't live without electricity. Our societies will not be able to function without electricity. Today, when we have a power cut or outage of some kind, it's typically just an inconvenience because the power isn't out for very long, for a couple of minutes or maybe, depends on where you live, but it could be an hour or a couple of hours. It's never like weeks or months, because if it would be weeks or months, everything would stop. Our factories won't work. Traffic won't flow. You couldn't fill your car with gas because the pumps need electricity. Nothing would work. We couldn't make food to feed our people. Our society would slowly but surely crumble. Today, if the internet is broken, it's an inconvenience. Sure, you can't Google for anything. You can't really get your work done. You have to do something else. But of course, it's going to come back and then everything continues. Because the innovation of the internet isn't that old. Electric grid is 150 years old. It became sort of mandatory within the first 100 years. Internet is exactly the same kind of revolutionary innovation. Innovation which is so good and so useful that eventually we will not be able to live without it. Our societies will crumble without it. Sounds pretty outlandish right now, but that's exactly what's going to happen. You see, eventually everything we build, everything we ship that uses electricity will also be online. Everything that we build which uses electricity will also be online. This revolution is in the very beginning, because right now we're only seeing what people are calling smart devices, like smart TVs and smart cars. I guess I'm worried about security of smart devices, but I'm much more worried about security of stupid devices, the kind of devices that don't really need connectivity from the users or from the consumer's point of view, but which will be going online anyway, because the manufacturers, the factories that build these devices want them online. And the typical reason why they want them online is that they want to collect data. They want to collect data about how their products are being used, what kind of failures they have with their products as they are in use, and maybe also where their customers are, which countries, which cities, which part of these cities are their products being used. And eventually, as it becomes cheaper and cheaper to put things online, everything will be going online. Everything will be online. And then that means that one day a network cut or internet cut is going to be as bad as a power cut. In fact, I claim that eventually, not in the near future, but in a couple of decades, if we have a cut in connectivity, that's also going to cut power. Today, if you have an electricity outage, of course, you also have internet outage. Eventually, it's going to be the other way around. If we have internet outage, we will also have a power outage. Not yet, not in 10 years, but eventually we will. And as everything goes online, as I said, the main reason for that happening is that data has become so valuable. Data is valuable. Data is money. This is why all the manufacturers want to bring their gear online so they can collect data, because data is valuable. Sometimes you hear the words that data is the new oil. All right, I buy that. I believe that. Let me give you one up. Data is the new uranium. Data is the new uranium. Just like oil, uranium is also very valuable. It's very expensive. Just like oil, it's also very dangerous, but it's even more dangerous. And oil might be harmful for many years, but uranium will be harmful for centuries. And data has many of the same properties. It's surprisingly hard to get rid of data. Data is not just valuable, it's also a liability, because when you collect all this data, then you have to be able to store the data, maintain the data, secure the data, encrypt the data, back up the data. It's problematic. And we've seen during the pandemic great examples on how problematic large amounts of data can be. You see, we've seen many cases regarding medical data. And we've seen many cases of attacks against hospitals, clinics, and vaccine research units during the last 12 months. Before the pandemic, I often got questions when I was doing briefings to companies or leadership teams or boards about medical data and about the security of our medical data. And almost always when people asked me about that, they were sort of assuming that medical data is one of the prime targets of hackers. So the questions were typically along the lines that, isn't it so that hackers are after our medical data and that's one of the prime targets? And I would typically reply that, no, actually, that's not true. Hackers are not after our medical data. They're not hacking hospitals. You see, most hackers, criminal hackers, are after money. Most criminal hackers are after money. And if you're after money, then the typical target is financial systems, payroll systems, bank accounts, credit card information, cryptocurrency exchanges, stuff that you can use to make money. Why would you hack medical information? Like, how do you make money with records of somebody's history of illnesses? Well, unfortunately, I might have been wrong as I've been giving this simplified advice that hackers are after money and they are not after medical data, because now we've seen multiple cases where medical information has been targeted by for-profit criminal hackers, hackers who want to make money. And in many of these cases, they haven't just been using traditional ransomware to encrypt the files and demand a payment from the hospital. No, they've stolen the data and then they've been blackmailing the patients, not the hospital, the patients. And this is bad. This is unusually cruel from the point of view of the victims. For example, we've seen multiple cases of attacks against plastic surgery clinics where the criminals have stolen photos of the patients before the operations, during the operations, and after the operations. And then they are blackmailing the patients that we're going to release these photos online if you don't pay. And of course, the payment is supposed to be done in Bitcoin, as it always is in ransomware and in blackmailing cases today. We saw one especially cruel case where the target was a private psychotherapy clinic where therapist notes were stolen by the criminals, and then they were blackmailing the patients. If you don't pay us Bitcoins, we will release your private therapy notes to the world. And that's a prime example of what I was saying about data is the new uranium. Information like that is explosive for decades, as long as anybody mentioned in those therapy notes is alive, maybe even longer. And that's an unusually long time for data to be held confidential. I've been working with F-Secure for 30 years. In June will be my 30th anniversary with the company. And I recently was going through our archives and I found this SideQuest removable hard drive cassette. And I worked with some experts to restore the data from that system. And it was a backup of our company's email server from January 1994. Yeah, 1994. We didn't have a website in January 1994. We set up our first website in April 1994. So it's a really long time ago. And I was going through that email archive and I realized that, okay, this is private emails, but they're from 25 years ago. Like none of this is secret anymore. There's no confidential information, like discussions with some clients we were having at the time. None of that is secret anymore. We could actually take that email archive and post it online and there would be no harm done. But that doesn't apply to things like medical information. That we have to be able to secure and back up and store for decades or for 100 years. And I don't think we've really thought through how big the challenges are that we're facing when we're working with information like this. So yeah, data is in many ways the new uranium. And as we work in the field of information security or study the field of information security or computer security, it's not just the money-making criminals we have to worry about. That is the biggest problem, but it's not the only problem. We also have to remember that we see more and more activity coming from governments, intelligence agencies, and militaries. In fact, when we look at the various cases that we've investigated, which we attribute to different governments, you can take almost all of those cases and put them into two different groups. You have cases which are about espionage or cases which are about sabotage. Espionage or sabotage. That's basically what we've seen. Espionage or stealing information or spying, well, that's pretty obviously expanded from the real world to the online world because we see, well, more and more of the information is no longer stored on physical paper. Like information doesn't look like this anymore. This is the old type of information. This is the kind of information you could only steal by physically coming to the information to copy it or to steal it. But today, information is virtual. You don't have to go anywhere to steal it. And when we look at the other group, sabotage, well, that's cases like Stuxnet or cases like NotPetya. And then it becomes like splitting hairs whether we're speaking about cyber sabotage or whether we're speaking about cyber warfare. I guess it depends whether countries in question were at war during the attacks or if they were not at war during these attacks. The very same cyber weapon can be used for sabotage or for war. So two groups that we've seen from governments. And then we have the outlier, because there's one government, North Korea, which is doing governmental cyber attacks, which are not about espionage or about sabotage. They're doing cyber attacks to steal money, which is completely unusual. Typically, it's the criminals who want to steal money. Well, North Korea has been proven to deploy ransomware. They've been proven to hack into foreign Bitcoin exchanges, and they've been proven to hack into international money transfer exchange systems. They do this in order to fix their budget deficit. Hacking to fix your budget deficit. Sounds like a movie. That's what they're doing for real. And especially hacks against cryptocurrency exchanges make a lot of sense for a regime which is being sanctioned from left and right, which means they can't move euros or dollars or yuans or rubles, but they can move bitcoins and Monero. And that's what they're doing. And when we look at the governmental cases, right now there's been a lot of talk about supply chain attacks. For a very good reason. We've seen multiple supply chain attacks lately. Maybe SolarWinds has been making the biggest headlines, but it's not the only one. And here the attackers, many of which are governmental attackers, use these because they can't hack the target. The target is too well protected. They can't find a way in. So let's find some software that they're using and hack the software vendor and then wait for them to build a new software version. And that version will have a backdoor built in, which is now approved and certified and signed by the real vendor and is shipped to the real target, which of course take these new updates into use. Of course, they will update because we, the security people, tell them to update. We always tell that the latest versions are the safest versions and always patch your systems as soon as vendors make new versions available. Supply chain attacks turn that on their heads. In those cases, updating is the thing that actually burns your organization. So during these 30 years, I've seen quite a few revolutions, but the biggest revolution by far has been the revolution in who we are fighting. The change from happy hackers and teenage boys writing viruses for fun to organized crime gangs and nation states deploying cyber weapons, that's been a massive shift and a massive change. I'm really happy to be working in an industry where we are very concretely working to help the victims. Like people come to us, they come to security companies in their hour of need. Help me, help us to get my data back. We are under attack. Can you help me? And it feels good when you can use your skills for good. It feels good when you can use your skills for good. And that's what you're doing when you are working in security. And that's why it's so great to have new places like Twente where we can teach new people to join the good side, to join the people who try to help others, who use their skills for good. So to all the students watching, you made the right choice. Welcome to information security. It's a great area to work. Take it from me after working 30 years in information security. To the faculty and teachers of Twente, thank you for your work. There is no more important work or more noble work than passing the knowledge to future generations. So congratulations to Twente. I wish great future for a great new university. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mikko, for being with us. And please stay with us for some minutes as people had interesting discussions on the chat about power outages and stuff. I'll save that for you. But in the beginning, when you started talking about European sovereignty, you mentioned that we are, well, pretty much depending on technology coming from outside Europe. Also, most of the threats are coming from there, which triggered some people to say, well, we do have some, technologies from Europe itself. One of them being Gaia-X, of course, as an alternative to GPS. Is that the way to go, to build our own system? Is that a good example where Europe is succeeding in governing their sovereignty?
Yeah, I actually do think that Europe does require its own positioning system. And it's great that it actually is a successful project and shipped and deployed. I often show Galileo to users when we're speaking about space. I typically ask them to open their own phone and just install an app which shows you which satellites your phone is right now connected to. And they're typically surprised to learn that they're connected to multiple different systems, not just GPS from the United States, but for example, to the GLONASS satellites coming from Russia, which is, of course, surprising to users who don't realize that their iPhone might be using Russian positioning system. But of course, depending on where you are, that could perfectly well be the case. So these kind of positioning systems can easily be used for geopolitics. That's why we need independent systems, and Galileo is a great example of that.
Okay. Well, I forgot to mention that many people mention in the chat, applause, applause. Also, great compliments for your Daft Punk style headset from somebody.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
Yes. Well, actually, because the sound was much better with this headset. So people are also allowed to post some questions when they registered for this viewing. One of them asked, well, Mikko, what is the effect of the corona epidemic on the cyber threats and cybersecurity currently, according to you? Very broad question, of course.
There's a couple of things we can directly attribute to the pandemic. As soon as everybody went remote working, we started seeing a clear growth in the amount of corporate file servers made available on public internet. So what was happening was that companies were moving their private file servers from behind the firewalls to public web. They used to be behind a firewall and then authenticated with a password protection system. Now they were just relying on authentication, but that's it. And the reason why companies were forced to do this was not that the employees went home with their laptops. That's not the problem. The employees who went home with their desktops were the problem. So these massive amount of computers which had never left the office, which didn't have VPNs, which had no remote working capabilities at all. Think about like architects or users who can't do their work with laptops, who need heavy processing power. They all had to go home as well. And in the meanwhile, you had to have them access files somehow. So we saw much more potential targets on the public web. And this has been one of the problems during the pandemic. Another is that we see much more attacks which are using the messaging to fool users into clicking links, falling for phishing scams or opening malicious attachments. And the fact is, scary users are easier to fool. And it's easy to scare users during a global pandemic. That's why we see so many scam messages which claim to be coming from your workplace, that there's been an outbreak and many of your workmates have been infected. Please open this attachment to get the list of names. Of course, people fall for that easier during the pandemic. So the attackers, they're always thinking about new ways of getting in.
Yes. Yeah, perhaps we can see this pandemic also as an ultimate stress test for our systems, right? As data is the new uranium. Very well put. Mikko Pone, thank you very much for being with us virtually all the way from Finland. I hope next year, when all is over, then we can receive you here in Twente at our new research institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here in the studio. And we're going to proceed with some very short interviews with some of our founding partners. We're 10 in total, so we have 4 to talk with: Thales, Cisco, SCDN, and TNO. So we'll kick off with Thales. And we have the CTO, Lucas Roffel. Hello, are you online?
Hello, Chris. Yes, I'm online, and I hope you can hear me correctly now.
We do. Welcome in the studio. You also have an office in Hengelo, which is quite near, of course. Can we see TUCCR as an ideal way to develop more cybersecurity expertise in our region, of course, also for Thales?
Yes, sure. But as you know, Thales is a global company, and we have facilities around the world. But we have an important activity in the region of Twente. And by the way, we already have quite a significant cooperation with University of Twente. I mean, I'm standing in front of the, let me go aside a little bit, ready, the solar challenge car from Twente University. So we have a strong relationship with Twente University, including even professor positions. So yes, the cooperation is quite good, and it's also good for the development of the region, but also for the Netherlands as an important country for cybersecurity.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Well, like Thales, local expertise, what a global reach. as TUCCR. Well, you develop complete IT and also OT systems. As being said by Iko in the beginning, TUCCR is not only going to deal with the very technical aspects, but also the social and ethical aspects. Are those of interest for Thales?
Yes, of course. In our systems in general, we have quite a strong involvement of people. People are always part of our systems. They remain important participants in our systems and also decision makers, because usually our systems have big influence. We are in the Netherlands very well known for defense, but we are also in air traffic management. We are also in space. Nice that you mentioned Galileo. It's a big project for the Thales Group. So we are in all kinds of what we call critical mission systems. And there humans are really an important part of the equation. And that's why we are also looking forward to the research we can do together with Twente University and TUCCR on, let's say, the testing, both the technical performance, but also the human interaction.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Lucas Roffel. Up to our next founding partner, which is Cisco. Edwin Prinsen, the Managing Director of Cisco Netherlands. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome here in the studio. Well, just broadly, can you tell us something about Cisco and why do you participate in TUCCR? What is the value for you?
Yeah, well, Cisco we are of course a global IT company, and everybody knows us from networking, but we are also a big player in the area of security. Yeah? Our portfolio actually has 4 pillars: networking, collaboration, data center, and security. And in everything we sell these days, we sell security. So we will never sell just a network. It always includes security. So it's getting more and more important for us. And the Netherlands is also one of the few countries in the world of Cisco where we invested some extra money in. We have a country digitalization program in Holland. And some countries in the world get extra money for resources, to access the channel for Cisco, to do all kinds of investment to accelerate the digitalization in a country. And we are the lucky country that we got some extra money to do so. And one of these pillars in this program is, of course, healthcare, education, but one of the main pillars is cybersecurity. So we will start a lot of partnerships with other companies, other universities or central government to work on all kinds of projects, proof of concept, proof of values, to make things better, to digitalize things, and a big part is security in that. So we love the initiative of Twente to be active in cybersecurity, and we love the alignment we have with them.
Okay, thank you. What are your expectations of TUCCR?
We think it's a great initiative. As Miko was pointing out already, I think Europe, Holland needs this kind of initiative. It's always a cooperation. You cannot do security alone. We cannot do it alone. We need the partnerships. And we need it from you guys from an academic level to think about it. And in March 2019, we already sent a memorandum of understanding with Twente to do all kinds of projects in the area of digitalization. And now we start working together in the area of cybersecurity and the challenges we have together. So we think it's great. Twente University, you really want to do some research on real world data, network security challenges, and that is in our sweet spot. We are a networking security company. So if we work together, we can really support Twente University with all our products and solutions. And together, we are a great alliance. So looking forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Looking forward to, and great to have you here. Our third founding partner is SCDN, of course. And we have Roelof Meijer, its CEO here. Well, people you know SCDN, of course, known by .nl, the register. But they do much more than that. Identity management project. They have the security lab, the fund, which research funds. Well, saying broadly, for a stronger internet. So, Roelof, how do you envision the collaboration with TUCCR in order to make the internet more resilient?
Hi, Chris. Well, Well, what really attracts us, and you have to know, like all the other partners, we've already a long and intense collaboration with Twente University. But what really attracts us is the ambition to realize a strong societal impact in the area of cybersecurity, and within the next 5 years. So that's pretty quick. And I think you need a big, wide, and powerful collaboration to establish that, to reach that objective, to realize that ambition. And I think we're all set to do so. So that's if you ask me what my main expectation is that we realize the ambition to make a strong societal impact in the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you. You already mentioned that you've already been collaborating with Twente University for years as SCDN. One of the examples is the National DDoS Clearinghouse. Is that the kind of example you're expecting on TUCCR?
Yes, it is, and I think there are many examples. Edwin also mentioned that the university wants data, the industry can provide the data. And in our case, we have many cases where the university helped us with developing analytical methods or methodologies to analyze that data. And I think that is also, like Edwin said, that's our sweet spot where the collaboration between the university and the industry, you use real life data, real life problems, and you solve those with the help of academics.
Yeah, sure.
So in fact, I think this is a kind of a textbook example where you have strong industry partners combining with research institutions, and together they solve problems with applied research.
Yeah, surely TUCCR will be data-centric. So how can SCDN deliver on our data-centric approach? How can you contribute from SCDN?
Well, yeah, like you said, we manage the .nl domain, and that gives us a lot of data, of which, of course, we treat very carefully. We won't want this uranium to leak to all kinds of wrong areas. But we have a lot of data that we get from the users of .nl domains and the registrants. And for instance, it can help us finding bad content registration or bad intent registrations. So we have big data collection methodologies which we analyze to hunt bad registrations, to hunt fake web shops, etc. But the criminals are getting smarter every day, we need new methodologies every day, and I think that is where research can help the industry.
Yes. Okay. Great to have SCDN also on board. Thank you very much, Roelof Meijer. Next and last of one of our founding partners, TNO, Henk-Jan Vink, the Managing Director of ICT, is with us. Well, why does TNO participate in TUCCR, and what are your expectations, Jan?
Well, I can be short on that. In this community of people who are well aware that cybersecurity has become a real threat for our society and economy, that TNO, with its 150 research on cybersecurity, which might look large, but if you see the challenges we face, we are very, very small. So we have to combine all the knowledge we have in the Netherlands. So we continuously invest in new partnerships like this one, where knowledge, new technologies, and business drivers come together. And for me, an example of this data-driven cybersecurity is, for example, if you want to automate your cyber operating center, you can introduce learning technologies. But at the same time, and it gives great opportunities to make these automated cybersecurity centers effective. But at the same time, this AI, these learning technologies can introduce new vulnerabilities. For example, adversarial learning. So by definition, this kind of complexity you cannot handle on your own. Therefore, we are happy to participate in TUCCR, and I expect this to become a platform where companies, public organizations, and knowledge institutes can, on the one hand, fundamentally research technology, and at the same time apply results and demonstrate what they mean for society and for business. So we should be hands-on on the one hand, and we should actually be fundamental on the other hand. So that's what I expect of TUCCR to be.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. You, as many of the other partners, already collaborate with Twente University. So how will TUCCR strengthen this collaboration?
For me, we already collaborate a lot with Twente University. One of the interesting parts for me is the system engineering part, where we over the past decades we have seen that every manufacturer in the Netherlands that produces larger equipment, like for instance MRI scanners or radar, like Lucas is involved in, the number of processors on board, the number of connections to the outside world, they rapidly grow. So they become vulnerable. So you have to think during time of design already how you can prevent and handle cybersecurity incidents. That surely will happen when you deploy these machines. And for me, another great example of cooperation that we do with the University of Twente is that we exchange staff. Very important for us to renew our knowledge base. So we really like to work with Ph.Ds and with students from Twente, but we also would like to exchange senior staff. So we really can renew our knowledge base at TNO as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Henk-Jan from TNO, and also the other partners. So, gentlemen, now it's time for the signing ceremony. So, you can log off. You'll be handed a paper on which you can put your signature, and it will be handed to the other partners. And well, as you have only 1 hour, we had 4 founding partners to talk with. So, just to make the list complete, we also have Betaalvereniging Nederland, the Dutch Payment Association, Better Be, the National Cybersecurity Centre, of course, joining us, and the NDIX, broadband provider, Northwave Security company, SURF, of course, of the universities, and the University Twente being represented by Joost Kok, which will join us physically in the studio. But first, we'll go to the signing ceremony. Please take it away.
Twente, I'm delighted to kick off the signing ceremony together with all our partners of our new Cybersecurity Centre, TUCCR. Thanks everyone. With this, we're almost ready to open TUCCR officially. For the still missing signature from the university itself, I'm now handing it back to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. Well, of course, this was pre-recorded, but just presented as if it was live. But who is live is Joost Kok, of course, the Dean of the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, Mathematics and Computer Science here at Twente University. So you're going to set the final signature on this letter of intent.
Thank you,
Please
Chris.
Proceed, Joost.
Indeed, I will sign on behalf of the University of Twente. Now that we all have signed, TUCCR is officially opened.
Cheers to everybody. TUCCR is officially opened. Some confetti, please, or some dancers, some music. Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, cheers to a nice future on cybersecurity research. So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully at home you take a glass or anything to celebrate with us. Let me finish thanking. There's so many people collaborated here, but I would just mention a few for this project. Andreas Peter, Mark Sink and Joey Pauls, thank you very much for organizing this event. The website is now live online on tucker.nl and .eu. Well, of course, there's many other people to thank. Did I forget anybody?
Chris, indeed, I mean, it has not only been this event, it has, of course, been a journey towards this event today. And many, many people and colleagues at the university, but also in our partners, have worked hard to make it happen. And you rightfully mentioned two people, Andreas Peter and Mark Sink, who did a lot of work in the past year to really make sure that today we had this great event. And I'm extremely grateful to all the colleagues. And what you can see, if you team up, you can make great things happen. And that's what we showed today. So absolutely thanks to everyone.
Oh, thank you for having us here. I can use some final words to say to the audience now we're here.
I was thinking that Willem is much better than that, but the only thing that I would like to add is, Willem, also thank you for taking the initiative together with Joost that we're now here.
Okay, well, thank you too. Joost, any final words?
I think it's the right time to start Tucker.
Yeah,
okay,
we'll start drinking.
Cheers to you at home and hope to see you next time here in Enschede live at Tucker. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.